Hello, everyone. I want to say hello and welcome to everyone who's joining us today. And I want to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to introduce you to our wonderful sponsor, Burlington English. We have Robert Breitbard here today to tell us a little bit more about Burlington.
Hi, thanks so much, Liz, and thanks to everyone for joining in. Excellent to have such a great crowd as we gear up for another wonderful school year. I know because of the topic, we may have some folks who might be new to Burlington English. So just very quickly, wanted to introduce exactly what Burlington English is. I was one of the first educators to use Burlington here in Florida as a local director. And Burlington is a fantastic tool, 100% aligned toward WIOA, and it does a phenomenal job of being focused on ESL learners, but getting those ESL learners in a great pathway to then go on to adult basic ed, high school equivalency, and then IET, IELC, and credential programs. I think, though, if you are new to Burlington English, some of the things that might be so interesting to you is while we think of courseware often is just in a lab, where we really break the mold is our projectable lessons, what we call in-class lessons for teachers. So everything at a touch of a button for teachers for the entire year that seamlessly match with what they'd be doing in their independent learning in labs and distance. And along with those projectable lessons, worksheets that are also seamlessly connected to everything that they'd be learning. And then, of course, with WIOA asking so much more of us, how can we expand that classroom? So mobile vocabulary practice, apps, and everything you'd want on their smartphones. So again, as we launch into today's webinar, just to recap, Burlington English provides everything needed for classroom, extension activities, the distance, and again, if you haven't seen Burlington, you owe it to yourself, particularly for our amazing speech trainer. So with that, if you'd like some more information, we'd love to connect, and that can be found at www.burlingtonenglish.com. And you're in for a phenomenal treat. My fellow Floridian, Ron Cruz, who's just an amazing educator. So again, it's going to be a really, really valuable webinar you're about to attend. And I'll turn it back over to Liz. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you. So yeah, I just want to introduce, first of all, I want to say I have an extra support person from COABE. Her name is Lindsay, Lindsay Lord. So if you hear Ronald talking to Liz or Lindsay, we're two separate people, and she's joining me here as well to help facilitate today's webinar. Just wanted to do a quick reminder, if you have not seen or heard about the Google boot camps that COABE and Google are offering in partnership, you can go to educateandelevate.org/Google and see if your state is a host yet and register for one of those boot camps. So Ronald is an adult educator. He's been in the field for 16 years. He specializes in ABE and GED mathematics. He's a lead trainer for the Florida Institute of Professional Development for Adult Educators. He's presented at COABE conference. I know he was there last year, and looking forward to having him again in Baltimore coming up in 2020. I'm going to have this information all online for you guys after the webinar. So if you want to read his whole bio, it's here. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Ronald Cruz, who will be facilitating today's webinar. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Liz, for that nice introduction. I'm going to go ahead and take over the screen right now. Welcome, everybody, to our session called TABE-nology. And I really hopefully appreciate your time here, and hopefully you're able to bring back some lots of good resources for your classroom and for your programs after this webinar. Just wanted to do a quick introduction. If you need to send me some questions directly or contact me, my contact information will be in the PowerPoint slides handouts that will be posted on the COABE website, and I'm also posting my email address and IPDA's telephone number here, just in case you need technical assistance or support with all of the material that I'm going to be introducing in this webinar. Just a brief agenda of what we're going to be covering today. I'm going to talk about some housekeeping. There are certain things that I'd like for you to take note of and make sure you do, because you'll have access to a lot of materials that we'll be sharing here. And then after that, I'm going to go over the actual coverage of this webinar, which is really just going over TABE, what is TABE, what is available out there that has been released by Data Recognition Corporation, which is the publisher for TABE. And then we're going to go into lots of different materials out there, because I know most of the school districts and schools that have adopted TABE are just in the beginning stages of their adoption and the use of this standardized assessment. So I wanted to really give you some materials, because Florida has already started with with the TABE last year, and so we've already made some tweaks in the implementation, and also our teachers and our cohorts of trainers have already done their due diligence in developing trainings and resources that would help schools and districts address that change in the standardized assessment. And after that, we're going to share with you some learning management systems that you can use and implement in your own classroom. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the Update platform, where you can really take advantage of a lot of the materials that I'm going to be talking about today. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I just wanted to let you know that all of the images and the logos that are included in this webinar are taken from tabetest.com. So they are a property of Data Recognition Corporation, and I do not own them myself. So images and videos and logos and all of that are property of TABE. Also, if you want to get access to all of the materials, I have created a Google Classroom class for this session. And that's where you're going to get all of the resources from this webinar. And I just didn't want to dump all of these resources into the COABE website, because then it's going to be up to you to sort through which materials are needed in certain things or for what. So what I did is I created a Google Classroom where you can get in and download all of those materials, and even added some more information there for you that I cannot cover in this webinar. In order for you to get access to that, you need to download the app either into your tablet, into your Surface computer, or even in your phones, or also you can access this through the website. The web address is right at the bottom of this slide. It's classroom.google.com. That's where you're going to go, and you're going to sign up with an email. And I really do suggest when you do sign up, use your school email. And if that doesn't work, let me know. Send me a quick email. Usually, sometimes some school districts filter this Google Classroom, or there's a special tunnel that they use. So in certain cases, you may have to provide me with another or on an alternative email address for me to be able to add you to this class. And I'm going to show you how this class looks like in a minute. Once you have downloaded the app or have logged into the website or created your account, the next thing that you're going to need is the classroom code. So the classroom code, this is very, very important, guys. So please take note of this. Write it down on a little sticky note if you can't wait for the handouts to be published on the COABE website. But please write this all down so that you can get immediate access to all of the resources here. Another thing I want to go over is that I have very limited connectivity and some functionality in my Zoom feature. And so therefore, just in case you have any questions, I'm going to be pausing throughout this webinar and turn it back over to Liz or Lindsay to shout back all of the questions or all of the burning questions you may have with regards to what have been covered so far. So I'll be stopping throughout. So if I have not answered your question and it's a burning question, please don't think that I'm ignoring the question. We have certain stop points in this webinar where I'm going to go ahead and orally respond to this. And for all those questions that I'm not going to be able to respond to, COABE is sending me, Liz is sending me the list of questions so that if you need further, if I wanted more time to address your questions, I'll be happy to respond to that. So hopefully that's enough time for you to jot down the classroom code. Once you type that classroom code in to join the class, I'm going to just exit quickly out of this presentation and show you the Google Classroom. So once you are in the classroom page, you're going to see something like what you're looking at right now. You're going to be directed to the stream tab of the classroom. It's going to have all of the posts that I've posted so far, everything that I have updated. And this is the same class that I created during COABE 2019 in Louisiana. So there's going to be some posts there. If you're not familiar with Google Classroom, there is a video in this stream that talks about, that leads you into a video that will show you how to initially use the Google Classroom platform. However, where I want you to go is in the classwork session. So when you click on the middle tab where you see classwork, that is where you're going to see what you're looking at. You're not going to see all the buttons that I'm seeing here because I am the creator of this, but on your version it's going to be a little bit more simplified. So you're going to see everything that I've covered, in this webinar, all of the materials and then resources, and you can download all of these resources directly from the Google Classroom. I also designed certain activities for reflection and feedback between you and I on the use and implementation of some of these materials in here. So that's a little bit of a preview of Google Classroom. I'm going to be talking about this platform a little bit more, why I like this this platform so much as compared to other that's out there like Edmodo and things like that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So what is TABE? So, you know, a lot of us already pretty much know what TABE is, but as we already know, we now have two different versions of TABE. We have the TABE 9 and 10 and the TABE 11 and 12. So now for certain school districts or states or counties, some of them are still using and start in the process of transitioning to 11 and 12. Some have already been implementing TABE 11 and 12 as a standardized assessment system, but that's just what it is. It is a standardized assessment system used to measure achievement of students in core subject areas such as reading, mathematics, and language. I also forgot to mention that TABE 11 and 12 is an NRS-approved standardized assessment for adult basic education. So let's talk about a little bit of just a brief overview of the domain structure of TABE 11 and 12. Very different from the domain structure of TABE 9 and 10. Reading is divided into 5 major, I would call them content domains. And this chart right here that you're looking at shows you what domains are covered at different levels of TABE 11 and 12 tests. So as you already know, L is our lowest level, standing for literacy. E is for easy, M is for medium, D is for difficult, and A is for advanced. So those are the 5 levels of the TABE test. And as you can see, starting at some of the patterns that emerge from this content area domain is that key ideas and details, craft and structure, and integration of knowledge and ideas is covered in all levels of the TABE test. Now let's switch over to language. Language, on the other hand, only has 4 content domains. And as you can see here, the 4 domains are conventions of standard English, knowledge of language, vocabulary acquisition, and then text types and purpose. And it varies as to how each domain is covered throughout the different levels of TABE. However, there are again 2 patterns that emerge. That's conventions of standard English and vocabulary acquisition and use is covered throughout all the levels of TABE test. Now, lastly, we're talking about the domain structure of mathematics. So I know this is very shocking, but there are 11 domains that are covered in mathematics, and each domain has a certain level of coverage. Like, for example, the first one, measurement and data, is tested on levels L through M, and no longer is tested at levels D and A. But let me just give a quick caveat there, that how even though measurement and data is not covered between levels D and A, those foundational skills may still be used and critical towards answering D level and A level questions. And if you get what I'm saying. So really, mathematics is like building blocks, Lego building blocks, where you can't really just talk about the top of your Lego brick without talking about the foundation. So really, that's very important. One of the patterns that emerge in the domain structure of mathematics is that geometry is the only content domain that is tested across all TALE levels. All right. So another thing that Data Recognition Corporation, or DRC, has released to us is their assessment blueprint. So I hope you are familiar with these assessment blueprints. And as you can see, if you're asking, oh, where did I get these stuff, or what website do I go to download all these materials, in each of the slides at the bottom right corner of the slide, you will notice that I have included the website, the complete web address for you to download certain materials in certain slides. So that theme is going to be recurring throughout this webinar. So just so you know, that the bottom of the slide is where you're going to see the website for all of the materials that I'm presenting throughout this webinar. So quickly coming back to these assessment blueprints, what are these? So the assessment blueprints actually itemizes in greater detail what is contained within each content area domain. So like, for example, in reading, there's several competencies or objectives that are included in phonological awareness. In language, vocabulary use, there's all of this. And if you want more detail as to what specific skills, objectives, standards, or benchmarks your students have to achieve at each level, this is where you're going to have to go. Please note that there is a blueprint for every level of test for every core subject area. So for example, in reading, you will have 4 to 5 assessment blueprints. In language, the same thing, and in mathematics as well. It also gives you a neat little chart showing the distribution of the content area of the content domains between each level of tests, and the distribution of the of each content domain differs from test to test. So you're going to be able to notice and study these variation as you read through this material. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here before I start talking about online materials. I'm going to turn it back over to Liz and see if we have any questions so far.
So we had a question about someone couldn't use, the code wasn't working properly to get into the class.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. There are certain, you're going to get sometimes, if Google Classroom is blocked by your district, it means it is not included in the whitelist, or your district has a particular account with Google Classroom, it will tend to block my class because I am not accredited through your school district. So what you're going to do is, in this webinar, you will see my email address, and you just send me a quick email with your alternative email address, and I'm gonna add you myself to your class. And the next thing you'll know is you're gonna get a notification that you have been added to the class, and all you have to do is accept. And then once you get accepted, you'll automatically get access to Google Classroom, and then take advantage of all of the materials. I'm going to try to do all of this later today, right after this webinar, so I can get you the materials as quickly as possible, because I know some of you really want to get their hands and ready for this, to be ready for the start of the school year. Any other questions, Liz?
Yes, so there was another question that said, when hand scoring, several questions have more than one answer. If the student marks a wrong answer, is that answer selected?
Okay, so yes, that's a very important question. And again, based on my information that I've received from DRC, if there are multiple answers, for example, there are the correct answers for a particular question is A and B choices. If the student only selected one of the two choices, they will get no point for that particular question. Hopefully that answers the question, Liz.
It's anonymous, so I can't ask the person directly, but hopefully it does. And if it doesn't, they'll probably post another one. I don't see any other questions, so I guess let's keep going.
Thank you very much, Liz. All right, so now I'm going to go over some of the materials that TABE has released for us to start practicing with all of the technology enhanced item and all of the capabilities that are built into the the system testing. So just to give you a brief overview, TABE Online, if you are administering the test online, is powered by DRC Insight. It's like the online learning system that does all of this magnificent stuff for us. So I just wanted to point that out, that how it's powered and who's powering these stuff, and where we're getting all of these information. So in order for you to access the online tools, the online training tools for TABE, this is where you're going to go. DRC Insight has this particular portal that they created for us to practice, and all of the released sample questions from TABE 11 and 12 are posted in here as well, in all three subject areas. So all you have to do is go to the website that you're seeing right now, is drcedirect.com/TABE/portals/TABE. And when you go into that website, all you got to do is click, and you're going to get into this smaller screen. It opens at a smaller window. You can always enlarge that smaller window. Once that window loads up, you just click on Online Training Tools. You can't click anywhere else but the text. I tried the first time clicking on the TABE logo, and it's not taking me anywhere. So you're going to have to click on the Online Tools Training, the wording. And then once you get in here, the same process, you have to select the subject area. So just in case, let's say in this particular scenario, we're going to select TABE 11 and 12 Mathematics. And then after that, you're going to have an opportunity to select the level of test for that subject area. And for purposes of this webinar, we're going to select level M. Once the level M has been selected, it's going to again ask you two prompts, whether you want it in standard or in audio. So the audio one allows you to, that read text aloud option to be accessed, which is only available to certain students that have the accommodations to take that. So if you want to have your students with accommodations, read aloud accommodations, then you wanted to practice the TABE 11 and 12 with them using the audio feature. For most of our students, we will be taking and looking into the standard version. Okay, so once you click that, it's going to take you to another login page. And then keep in mind that the username and password is already provided to you right on the screen. So it's math, M-O-T-T. Okay, that's your username, and your password will be test1234. Once you enter those credentials, all you have to do is sign in, and it will take you to a different place, not this one. So once you sign in, it's gonna have it's gonna take you to a screen where It welcomes you to the testing portal. It's going to give you some instructions. It's going to test your screen, your screen size and compatibility, and then also your system compatibility. So it's going to test all of that, and then all you got to do is click next, go on to the next set of instructions, and then you're going to be directed to the first practice item. Now, what I really want to go over is the different tools that is available to the students while they're taking the test. It's very important that we go over these different tools because we don't want students to be experimenting on these tools throughout the test. We already know that the TABE test is a time test, so they have very limited time to really just try to learn all of these features during their pre-test or post-testing with TABE. So this slide that you're seeing right now are just the basic features of the testing screen, what is available. So there is a navigation panel that shows the student the questions and what number of questions they're answering and how many more questions they have to go. The testing tools give them the feature for to use the cursor for drag and drop or hotkey items, and then also your highlighter is there. There is a sticky note and a magnifying lens, and also a line guide. I'm going to go over all of these testing tools with you in a minute. There is a timer, and then there is the help tools right at the upper right corner of the screen. At the bottom of the screen, you will see the review or end test button. So really, I caution the student from clicking this button twice because it's going to immediately end the test for them. Clicking it once will show you into a screen where it shows you all of the questions that is in the test, and then which ones are answered and which ones do not have an answer. So you can always click to that question that you have not, or you want to go back because you're not quite sure of your initial answer. There is a pause button here. I also wanted to caution everybody, this pause button does not pause the timer. And your students will learn this very, very quickly as they take the test, because they will definitely try that pause button to see if it's going to buy them a little bit of time to think, but it's not. Pausing the test only signals the computer and the system that you are still active, and that's best used when students are reading through passages where they're not going to be hovering or moving the mice. And they're just reading. And so therefore, the system sometimes automatically goes on standby or logs the student out when there is no activity at all. So pushing the pause button will let the computer and the system know that you are active, you are still in the test, you're just reading, even though you're not moving the mouse. This is especially useful for students that do not use any testing tools while reading, such as the line guide. The line guide, however, if you are planning to use the line guide while reading, I suggest my students do not pause the test. You don't really need to do that, because using the line guide actively from line to line automatically notifies the computer that is still there, so it will not suspend or log you off. And there are other options here which I'm going to go over in greater detail later. And then the bottom right corner is how they navigate through the questions. So there's the back button to go to the previous question, and the next button to go to the next question. So let's talk about some accessibility and accommodation tools. Please note that some of these accessibility and accommodation tools are just that. They are accommodations. So therefore, if the students do not have an approved accommodation, that feature or this feature will not be available to them. There are certain accessibility options that are available to all students taking the test. I'm going to go over those in a minute. So one thing that is available to all students that are taking the test is the line guide. The line guide is simply just a line that is a yellow line that you can drag down. It's just like when you're reading such a heavy book page there's a lot of text and you want to guide your eye into that particular lines as you read, because sometimes students get distracted by the next line or when the texts are just so small and it's very difficult to read. So line guide is very useful to keep my students on task with what they're reading, and then it decreases the number of times they have to reread a sentence because they didn't quite understand it. The highlighter is very similar to the highlighter that we use with word processing. It highlights certain words, and it really it becomes very, very useful when marking down key information from the text that they're going to know will be used or asked later on. So it allows the students to locate information quickly without having to reread the entire text or skim through the entire text. The answer eliminator, I'm going to go over that in a minute. I'm going to show you how it looks. And all of these other features I'm going to go over. So let's start with the answer eliminator. So the answer eliminator allows the student to put an X on items that they know is not going to be the correct answer. We always practice our students to again, this is a best practice in test taking, to always eliminate already distractors. They know are distractors. They know they're never going to be the correct answer for that question. And in order for you to access that is that X right next to the upper left corner of the screen where you see the X and then a circle. That is the button to do that. So they first click the option and then click that, or the reverse. Click that and then click the option. So either way, it will work for the student. Eliminating the wrong answer automatically eliminates any chance that a student will still accidentally pick that answer. And as you may know, there's a lot of things that going through the minds of the students as they're taking the test. And even though we watch out for it, or we tell them you have to be careful, you have to make sure that what you're clicking is really what you intend to respond as your question, as the answer. Sometimes students will always forget. So this or get distracted. So this answer eliminator is really, really helpful for those students that are easily distracted and cannot pay attention really on what they're clicking on. Another thing that is also available here is the note-taking guide. Right here at the bottom right, you see that yellow section. So when we practice marginal notes or marking the text with our students as a close reading practice or a close reading strategy, that's still available, and they can still do that while taking the TABE tests in reading. So therefore, that's where you can pull up that sticky note pad and then they can type in here. Please note that this does not save. It only saves from page to page, and they cannot copy and paste from the sticky note. So they will have to make sure. So really the sticky note is just giving the students certain reminders, something that they wanted to keep in mind, or when they're gathering evidence from text or pieces for the main idea of the text I just read, and kind of like drafting like a topic sentence, whatever. That's when this tool becomes really, really handy. So let me share about what can you do in addition to that sticky note, because you can always take the students to the lab and play around with the reading tools that is available from the portal. However, if you do not have access to the portal or you have very limited access to the internet, then you can use the free version of Acrobat Reader on your computer to practice those things. You can download text or pre-populate text to your students, and then just like the example below I'm showing you, they can highlight, strike out, Acrobat Reader DC requires an additional download, but it's a free version. You can put in comments in here and all of that. So let me just take take a moment to exit this screen and show you the same version on the Acrobat Reader that I've been doing. So you see I have added a text right here, very similar to what's available on the in the online version of TABE 11 and 12. If I wanted to make underline or highlight, I just click on the comment tab, and it's going to open a comment here. You can always close this out, but see, when I click on the comment tab, a new tab opens up at the top where it allows me to type new text, create text boxes that way. And this one, the highlight one, is the one that we want. And you can click that. Now it turns yellow. Let's say the tree has a fruit is the one that we want to highlight. And there you go. Please keep in mind you can always change the highlight color to the student's preference, the thickness of the highlight, and then all of that. So you can play around with Acrobat Reader to see what best fits your needs. But if you can't always take them to the lab or you do not have consistent internet access, Acrobat Reader, this version, is going to allow you to do all of those capabilities without having to log into the DRC portal. All right, so going back to our slides, let's talk about the magnification of the TABE test. So the magnification is available also to all students. You do not need an accommodation for this feature to be available. It's especially useful in language and mathematics and reading, where they have charts and graphs that are quite small and you want to really dig into the details, or you have a difficulty, you have a bad eyesight and you need a larger font, larger text to read or to analyze images. So therefore that is available. So all you have to do is click on the test-taking toolbar, you click on the magnifying glass. Now keep in mind that there is a limit to the magnification of the screen, so that's what I'm going to show you. So on the second level magnification, it goes up to this size. As you can see, the screen increase in size, and the students will probably ask, so what happened to the rest of the screen? I don't see my timer anymore. I don't see my other buttons that were there before. Keep in mind that there is a scrolling tab now that appears at the bottom, depending on what size they resize depending on the size of magnification. So you now have this gray bar right here that you can move left and right to view portions of the screen that are no longer visible or that no longer fits on the screen. And then this is the largest magnification. So there's only 2 levels of magnification available, and this is the largest one. So it's 2 times magnification, and again, much clearer, bigger, but then again, also you have to deal with the scrolling. So in this case, previously we only have in this case, you also need to scroll up and down because of that gray bar at the side of this image. And then there's another gray bar at the bottom left corner of the screen where they can move it left and right. So it takes some getting used to. So really, 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 really practice with your students on using the magnification so that they're quite familiar with that feature and they can navigate and magnify their way through the correct answer. All right, let's talk about something that's really, really important as well, especially for mathematics, is the calculator. So at the level M test of the TABE test, students are provided, so this feature is available. The basic calculator is available for them at level M. So basic calculator is just what it is. It's very basic. It only has the 4 functions there. It does have an integer function, so it allows the student to change between a positive and a negative number, but that's all it is. Practicing with the basic calculator is on the computer feels very, very different on a handheld computer. I mean, on a handheld calculator. So therefore, you need to find out from your testing center as to, are they allowing the students to use handheld calculators or not? If not, then you may have to do quite a bit of practice on the basic calculator on the computer. So when you go into DRC portal, you're going to be able to access the basic calculator at any point of the math level M test. So that's available to you. You can have the students practice it and get familiarized with that feel. The scientific calculator becomes available at level A tests. So at the level A test, the scientific calculator has more features. So it has the trigonometric features, the exponential features, and things like that. So you have all of that. It has grouping symbols. It's got logarithmic functions, things like that. I don't think all your students were going to get to use that during the test, but that's there for you. Another thing that's very similar to this one is your TI-83 or TI-30XS emulator software. If your school has purchased those are very similar in feel and look as this one. So you know, if you don't want to take your students directly into the portal to practice the use of the scientific calculator, you can always use your emulator software. And then if that's not available and you don't have an emulator, you don't have internet access to go into the portal, what I suggest is downloading your own copy of, you know, any basic calculator software into the computers. So one of the things that I would recommend to you is a Desmos. Desmos scientific calculators, or their group of calculators, are really, really useful. It has the same features, and I know you have to caution your students when they use calculators like this that the format will be different, the color will be different, there may be additional features that is available, and the buttons might look slightly different. So just in case, in here you have the absolute value. It looks slightly different from what it would look like on a regular calculator. In here you have your trigonometric functions at the bottom, whereas on your test version you have them at the top of your calculator. This one allows you to not just compute but also graph. So you want to do some graphing analysis with your students. And I'm going to demonstrate this to you in a little bit. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to Liz to see if we have any questions.
Boy, do we ever. We do have questions rolling in.
Okay.
Okay,
Let's
so
take questions, Liz. So, and then we'll continue on. Okay, go ahead.
okay, how do you hand score the TABE?
Oh, okay. So I would say I would respond to this in an email. Actually, the response to that is actually going to come from your state representative. That's designing all of your procedures for assessment for you. There are a standard set of guidelines that DRC releases for scoring, but again, that might slightly differ from what is approved at your state level. So I'm gonna respond to, I need to get more information based on what state you're coming from, all of that, to answer that question. So if you just forward the list of questions to me, Liz, I'm gonna email them directly.
Sure, that sounds good. Yes, so just in case everyone is can hear me and you're listening, I'm going to be sending a report including all of your questions right to Ron, so we won't miss you. Moving on to the next one. Our program has been considering starting to use TABE 11 and 12. Our biggest concern is how long the testing may take for our students. We've seen the total time limit for the test. We're wondering how long this test really takes on average for students to complete.
Okay, so really good questions. That was another thing that Florida was really worried about when we started adopting TABE 11 and 12. But Rest assured, we have not experienced such a very long time, or really students taking all the way to the end of the time limit to take the test. On the average, a student takes about 40 to 45 minutes to complete the test. One single test, okay? So let me just backtrack that. One single test, so about 40 to 45 minutes. Might take longer for the math and the reading because of all of the reading that's involved and all of the computations involved in math. So it might take a little bit longer. Again, the length of time the student takes taking the test really depends on how you set up your assessment procedures. Do you have an orientation at the beginning where you can go over some of these key features and go over how to navigate through the test quickly so that the students are not tinkering through the different buttons on the screen and therefore eating so much time. So therefore, there's a lot that can be done to really address that time issue. But right now, so far, we're good to go. Our district has continued using TABE after 1 year of implementation, and we have not had any great issues with regards to the timing.
Okay, good. Now we've got a few more. Just to clarify, if a question has multiple correct answers and selects one, they get it wrong only if the test is hand scored, or does it matter how it's graded?
It doesn't matter how it's graded. They will still get no point if the question requires 2 correct answers and the student only selected one of the 2 correct answers. They will still not get a point for both hand scored and electronic.
Okay, perfect. That actually answers the next one too. Another question, if using the audio, do you need to be on the actual computer with the download for accommodations?
No. Okay, for this particular portal, it will allow you to use the audio even if you're not on the actual computer where the student will take the actual test. You just have to have a speaker or that audio peripherals that you need to attach to the computer, let's say a headphone or a speaker for the student to actually hear the audio. One of the things that I would caution you with the audio is the audio speed. The audio speed can be adjusted, and the slow speed is really slow. So I need you to I want to caution you on that. So you wanted to play around with the audio feature and see really how quick and how slow the reading audio is going to go, and finding the perfect pace of reading is really, really important, especially for the student.
Okay, great. What is the line guide? That was asked a little while ago.
Yeah, so okay, so I wanted to instead of taking you to the DRC portal, I'm just going to show you that line guide, just how it looks. I'm going to just use Microsoft Word, and then let's just say, for example, you have a bunch of text right here. A line guide is, it's very, okay, so a line guide is just like a line like this, and it's going to be a little thicker, but the line guide can be manipulated from line to line so that the student stays reading on that line. So this same that I'm showing you very crudely on Microsoft Word without having to log into the DRC portal is the exact same feature or feel that the students will see. So the line can be dragged up and down the text so that the student is guided along as they're reading lengthy text. So hopefully that answered that, Liz. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's actually in the world of paper and pencil. We used to use rulers.
Yes,
I was a teacher once upon a time, so it's just an online version basically of keeping your place by putting something underneath the text.
Correct. All right, very good. So I'm going to go ahead and go over. We have lots of materials to cover, and we have very limited time. So at the level M, there is a protractor that is available for students. So they will be tested on how well they can use a protractor to measure angles. So that's one of the things that students are really struggling with, because they don't have that measuring skill, and let alone using a computer to measure. So I'm going to show you next is this website, VizNose, which allows you to practice measuring angles with your students using that. So I'm just going to go to that right now. Right here is what you're seeing. That's all it is. You click on the protractor. You can manipulate the protractor however you want. You can drag and drop the the protractor anywhere. It's not responding to me right now, but hold on. I think it's frozen. So I think this, okay, hold on. Let me just try another one, see if it's gonna, okay. So if it's going to allow the student to construct angles, let's say, okay, draw me a 30-degree angle, whatever, it gets them familiarized with that. It's not letting me drag the protractor. Right now, it's not behaving the way I want. And again, it could have been for many, many things. I have many website queued up here and loaded, so it's taking up a lot of memory. So the website is provided to you on this side. So, you know, just like what I showed you here, I actually dragged the protractor upside down to actually measure the angle that they gave. So if you click on the this dice right here at the top, it will randomly generate an angle, and they can give the measurement of the angle or identify the angle, whether it's acute, obtuse, or right angle, and things like that. So you can do a lot of things, fun stuff. You can even do some competitions and games with your students with this fun app. I really had a great time practice using it. And it's like I said, those two circles that you see on the protractors, those are the one that you can drag. And you might want to check whether, because I think it runs on Java, see if you have the latest version of Java installed. Also, Flash Player has to be installed. So it will be, you know, you might want to try, okay, if it doesn't work in Internet Explorer or Edge, then you might want to try with Google Chrome. It's, you know, that's just one of the things that we deal with technology anyway. Sometimes it will work on a certain browser, and sometimes it does. So this is also developed by Desmos, by the way, so, but it is on a different website. It's called VizNose.com. And there's also an online ruler that they can use on the TABE test. So practicing how to use a ruler, very similar to how to use a protractor. I'm providing you here a website where you can practice measuring things. The problem with measurement rulers and the internet is that your screen resolution, the size of your screen, varies, and if it's not a true measurement, you might be deceived on what you're trying to measure. So if you have, let's say, an object, it might be showing like, oh, it's 1 inch here right now, but then somebody else on a different computer is showing, no, it's 1.5 inches. That could be caused by, again, differing screen resolutions, different screen sizes. So in order for you to become more consistent, I found one that actually captures your screen size and resolution for you and adjusts the size of the ruler for you, so there will not be any of those differences in measurement. You can move the ruler around just like what I'm showing you here. You can tilt it sideways or whatever based on what you're trying to measure. You can also change the measurement scales. Right now it is in inches, but you can always change it to centimeters or whatever measure. So those can all be customized when you're using the Pili app. Color overlays are also available as I think this is available to all students, but I really suggest not to get overexcited with the colors. Your students were going to get, oh, it's so cute, it's green, it's pink. Yes, but do not have them waste their time trying to pick their favorite color. This is really very useful for those students that have color blindness, have difficulty in reading, and then dyslexia, things that are, that they're really using this as an accommodation rather than an aesthetic tool for the test. Really, TABE is not grading on how well or how beautiful the colors contrast on your screen. So just remind the students that this is an accommodation, is available for them, and if they're having difficulty reading, that's there available for them. Masking is another feature on the test that's shown on the screen right now, where you can mask certain portion of the test. Sometimes the questions distract me, so I wanted to cover the question first so I really can focus on what I'm reading and really absorb and comprehend what I'm reading. That's available for me, so I can move that around. You just click on the mask. You can click on multiple masks to put different masks on the screen, and it blacks it out. And you can move that, you can drag it, or you resize the area that you're blacking. I would also caution that sometimes if you mask, do not forget to unmask, because then sometimes like, oh, what happened to my toolbar? What happened to my timer, navigation tools? And students will forget that they've actually masked it. So it's not very easy to forget. But again, just that's there as a feature as a focus feature, and that masking feature is available to all students. Text-to-speech is the feature that we've been talking about. The audio must be adjusted to the desired speed and volume. So that can be done. You have to, you can read the entire text, or you can highlight words that needs to be spoken. So that all can be access at the bottom of the screen, where you have the play, stop, forward button. And again, that is a feature that has to be approved or activated by the by the test administrator. And then the line guide is right here. There's this information on the line guide. It is usually there when you're on the reading portion. If there's not a lot of reading, I don't know if it disappears or not. I have not actually tried that yet. For those of you that are new, I cannot really cover everything on the TABE and all of these features in 1 hour. So what I'm giving you is a quick start guide for your districts, lots of videos, Q&As, training that goes over in greater detail all of the things that I'm covering today. So what I suggest you do is to provide each member of your testing staff or even your teachers these videos, so they know the process and they know what is expected, and they need to and what's available as a feature for the students. So there are the on-demand training videos, and there's a quick start guide. All of them can be downloaded from the website that is at the bottom of the screen. Now, if you wanted to now start focusing on the content of the test, one really useful tool that I've found that really is, because there's not a lot of textbooks that have been published aligned to TABE 11 and 12, or truly aligned to TABE 11 and 12 that's available for us. Crowd Ed Learning, I just want to give a shout out to them for creating this Khan Academy practice sets. What this is an Excel version of all of the competencies, the domains, the competencies included in each level of the TABE test, and they've aligned it to every single lesson that corresponds to that competency with Khan Academy. So let me just quickly show you that. It looks like this when you open up, and if you click on one, let's say 2-digit place value challenge, it takes you directly to the Khan Academy lesson and practice activity for that particular competency. So, if you're fortunate enough to have access to technology, all of that. Keep in mind, you can also print this. If you're targeting the needs of your students based on competencies and items that they need practice on, you can always print this out if you don't have access to the computer or to the internet. So let me go back to the presentation.
We have about 1 more minute, and I have also one just to let Robert give a closing statement too, just a quick update.
Okay, so just like I said, I expected this to run a little bit longer. On the actual COABE training that I did have 15 minutes longer time, so therefore I have more time there. But I think you're going to get all of these materials from the Google Classroom. It will also have me explain and even design certain activities there for you to take to get you more familiarized with all of these things. So there's that feature that's going over the different tabs. So just go over your handouts for this webinar, and you'll notice that there are lots of things there that could be taken advantage of. And lastly, I just wanted to point out one little thing that is also included, and it's very, very important that I talk about it, is from the IPDAY website. We have developed several curriculum matrices for the TABE 11 and 12, where we created, where you can plan and create different lessons, planning guides, resource guides for your students to help you address and pinpoint and target multiple components on the TABE test based on how your students perform. That is also available and now downloadable through the Google Classroom that I provided to you. I apologize that I'm not able to go over a lot of these materials with you, but we have developed so much in Florida that I cannot cover. So maybe I'll request Liz to have probably a part 2 of this training to cover other areas that I'm not able to cover here. Just wanted to say thank you for inviting me to present to you today, and thank you for lending me your ears and your time. I'm going to turn it over now to Liz.
Oh, thank you so much. And I know an hour can go by so fast. So I wanted to let you know that I responded to all of the questions that you would be emailing. So I wanted to bring everyone's attention. Please either, write this down for a minute if you would like. There's Ronald's contact information. Robert, I didn't forget about you. Just hold tight for a second. We will be making sure that this PowerPoint and recorded webinar are posted to our website at coabe.org. And then you'll go to the professional resource tab and scroll down to webinar resources. So everybody will be able to stay in touch with Ronald. And I think it's a great idea that we'll have a part 2 so we don't have to, be so rushed. So yeah. I'm going to thank Ronald so much, and I'm going to let Robert take it from here for a few more seconds, and then we'll say goodbye.
Thank you again to my great friend Ron Cruz there. Again, if you ever get a chance to see him in action at any national or regional conference, it's a real joy. And for those who are also working not just with TABE, but also with CASAS, just to let you know, we're an official preparation partner with CASAS. So if you also have used CASAS for your learners, just know that Burlington English has not only lesson practice, test practice, reducing test anxiety, getting students used to test format, but we've also got projectable lessons even for your teachers that match, items that the students would need to improve on for the assessment process, whether it's content area, task, the actual lesson items, competencies. And again, if you happen to be using TOPS Pro, Enterprise, just know that you can also drill down with the electronic enterprise version of CASAS, as well as our practice tests, and have matched seamlessly projected lessons. And it's really, really excellent instruction getting your students ready for the best success using CASAS. So again, thanks to Ron, thanks to everyone for participating today, and I'll turn it back over to Liz.
All right, thank you everyone. I just wanted to thank our sponsor and for Lindsay for sitting in and doing some support for me in the background. Thank you. And thank you, Ronald. And we will reach out to you to do a part 2 because it does seem like everyone is really not ready for today's webinar to be over, and that's great. So we will reach out to you and hopefully stay alert, and we'll be posting some information on another webinar with Ronald. Thank you.